Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about AsymSculpts 3D printed display box for your miniatures, as well as the 3D printable backgrounds that come with it. Let's get into the video. Okay, this is the Kickstarter page for the AsymSculpts miniature display box. So this is designed to be a almost fully 3D printable display miniature box, including a variety of backgrounds. As you can see, this is fully funded. This Kickstarter is already completed, and they've already sent out the files, which is why I was able to print my display. But the basic premise is you've got two different box sizes. They've got a small and a large, and the idea is you can print basically the entire setup besides the acrylic that you put in the sides here. If you want to put the acrylic in, these legs and base and top are all 3D printed, and then you've got a variety of backgrounds that you can put your miniature in. And these can also be linked together. That, you know, if you print multiple large ones or multiple small ones, they've got a variety of different options. And we'll take a look at the files a little bit more in detail here. But I backed this at the silver tier. I really liked this. Shows the different slots you can do in the different sizes. So these are will fit easily on most of your standard printers, so you don't have to have a large printer to print these. But really, I think the core of this is all the different backgrounds that they have. So the core background comes with all these different sets. So this is what I have access to. In the intro, I showed the rock wall. I'll be painting up the crystal cave. I've also printed off the teleport gate. So I've only painted the crystal cave so far, but I've printed multiple ones of these and plan to print more as I move forward. I'm going to actually try to upgrade to a higher tier later on. I really like some of these other wave ones, and this is really what this is all about, is all the dramatic backgrounds you can get for different miniature settings to display your miniatures. So there's a lot of these that are really neat. It's kind of tough to choose just a basic one when there's all these other options, but I wanted to print some first and then see if I could expand later. I believe these will eventually be available on my mini factory, but anyway, this is the Kickstarter page. I will link it in the description here, and we can get into the actual printing and what the files look like. As far as basic files, there are really, I'll say two, well, I guess three including the background, file types you need. So there's basically the top and the bottom, which these are identical. This is just the thin one. And there are different varieties. There's some that are thicker that have a recess for lighting, some that have a connection option if you want to link boxes together. So it's pretty much the same setup. It's just depending on how you want to link your boxes or if you want to put lighting inside. So this is the basic. It doesn't contain any link notches. This is for kind of a single display box. So again, these two files are the same. And then these are the basic leg files that are all identical. I just multiply the same, but these latch into the corners and then the box snaps together. So this is a pretty straightforward printing. I printed these on my Ender 3 basic 0.2mm layer thickness. Nothing special. Again, these print without supports. It's all a pretty easy print in my opinion. All right, so this is the slice file. I set this to print without any supports touching the main piece. This is arranged just vertically, and I did add supports basically to this lower ledge because this needs to fit into a slot. So as you can see here, it starts off with just this thin base and then it widens to a thicker section to cover all the detail. So I did basically print supports just for this lower section here. And because it's such a small area, I actually used a raft on this just because it had better adhesion. And then I was worried about this piece as it built up tipping over. So the raft helped and those supports broke off pretty cleanly. So let's take a look at the part. All right, so here we have the finished piece from the Ender 3 with a 0.4mm nozzle. Already broke off the supports on the bottom. This broke off pretty cleanly, so I'm pretty happy with that. And I think overall we've got some layer lines, but overall it's printed really cleanly, I think. It looks good, and I'm going to base this in black, and then we're going to do a quick paint job on it. So let's get to it. All right, so this is the part based in black, and we're going to do a quick dry brush on the background and then paint up these crystals. So let's get to it. All right, so starting with the paint job, I started with a basic acrylic zinc as a dark gray. I dry brushed this all over the piece. This is going to be really the base color of the print. So I try to cover all the nooks and crannies, leave a little bit of the black base coat in there, but really trying to get most of this since we'll have a lot more other highlights that we get to. Next up was a slate gray, touching a little bit later here on more of the highlights, kind of trying to highlight that center path a little bit, and then touching on all the crystals as well, which will get covered in a different color later. Then moved on to a light buttermilk. So this is a much lighter dry brush, trying to again focus just on the path here, hit up the crystals and really hit more of the front edges. We want to leave the back of the cave more dark. So this is just the highlights. Did a Nuln Oil wash over the entire piece. I just covered this all in Nuln Oil and then set it up and let it to dry. Next up, I wanted to add some dirt, so I did some contrast dark oak flesh and immediately regretted how brown that was. As you can see, it's just much more brown than what I expected. So basically, I covered it on there and then I used some water to kind of thin that out. I liked a little bit of the brown, but it was just too intense for what I wanted. So I really kind of tried to wipe it away and leave just a little bit remaining. Next up, the crystals. I started with an Army Painter Aquamarine and did a base coat over all the crystals in this. Just making sure I get good coverage and touch on all the surfaces on all of these. All right, up next was some Drakenhof Nightshade to shade the crystals. So I just put that on all the crystals, tilted the piece up, and let that dry. Then moved on to a Corellia Green shade. I just put this on the edge to kind of create some moss along that little path. And then for the final step on the crystals, I did some Neptune Glow edge highlighting all the crystals and hitting the top and edge pieces on all those. So quite a few crystals and just went through and made sure to hit them all so that way they pop well in the background. Then I looked to do some kind of object source lighting and then just did a light dry brush around the edge of the crystals to try to give them a little bit of a blue glow. So that way the piece is not just the crystals, but the crystals and a little bit of a glow in the background. So just went through with a light dry brush and did that all around the pieces. For final dry brush step, I did some cobblestone, which I like, which has some brown, and I touched on this on just the very highest layers. So just the very front and a little bit of the path. So I did order some acrylic for the other sides of the display box. Unfortunately, I misread the sizes, and this sheet is a little too thin as far as width-wise to be able to fit in the display box. So it kind of leaves a gap on either side. So unfortunately, I have to order the correct acrylic and then get that installed in the box. I think it looks okay without it. It's just, it'd be nice to have it for the stability. So unfortunately, I do not have the correct acrylic for this right now. So as far as assembly, this thing's pretty straightforward. You've got the 4 posts that go into each of the bases here. As I did mention, I did downsize these by about 10% on the X and Y, which I think leads to these, I think it was a little bit too much. They're a little bit loose. Even despite them being small, it is a little tricky to get the posts and everything kind of assembled together because they don't really slot in. So I think that's something that might be able to be improved, of just how those fit together or snap in. And then without the acrylic pieces, this is obviously a little bit wobbly here since I don't have the same stability on the whole thing. So I do need to get the acrylic in and get that addressed. But again, it's really easy to print as far as it's really, this is, besides the back piece, this is 3 total pieces. I mean, I guess you got the back, this is 1 file, and then top and base are 1 file. And then you can link these together, as I mentioned with other ones. So it's a pretty straightforward project. Again, I think there's maybe some room for improvement, again, on the stability. I could probably glue these together, but I think kind of the idea is you could slide different miniatures and different backgrounds in as you want. But anyway, I'm very happy with it. I'm glad I backed this, and let's get a kind of a glamour shot with the miniature in it. All right, so I'm going to show this with a large Demon Prince model and then like a smaller 28mm D&D model. All right, so let's get it rotating, take a look. As I look at the setup for a smaller 28mm miniature, this box, the rest of it, the background looks great. I'm really happy with that. But the rest looks very plain, I'll say. So I almost feel like this would look better. I'm not going to do in this video, but if I were to, base this whole base section to kind of make it blend in seamlessly, at least more seamlessly with the rest. So it would kind of feel like you've got maybe a rocky base here, then that fades into that. The only thing is if they were to offer these, it'd be tricky because these have different levels of overhang on this back piece. You can see it comes forward a little bit. So it'd be easy to base, once I had a background set up and kind of glue everything together, and it'd be locked in. But as far as trying to do universal base, I think that'd be a little bit tricky unless you made everything recessed. So anyway, again, still happy with it. I think it looks a little bit better with the larger miniature. Again, this is the large size, so it makes sense that this would fit a large miniature rather than a small miniature. I think, unfortunately, with this background, a lot of the detail is lower, and my Demon Prince here is pretty big, so he blocks a lot of the detail that we made. So you can kind of see the cave, but the rest is a little bit hidden. But this fits him really well. He's a pretty large miniature with wings and a tail and everything. So again, I think it fits well, and if you like this, check out their Kickstarter. And again, I think a backer kit should be coming soon for that if it's not already up. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks. Please like and subscribe for more.